Hi, I'm Katrina. You're welcome to the Irish Mammy channel. Today I want to give a garden tour in all its glory. There's definitely areas that needs a lot of work and areas that I'm happy with, so you're going to see all today. There's three main kind of areas to the garden. My front garden, which is the ornamental part, the area around my greenhouse, which is my raised vegetable growing beds, and then I have the wild part out the back, which I'm happy to let grow mostly wild, but it has lots of production in it too. Right, let's get going. So I've said the wild part is the part out the back, but I kind of forgot about this part. This is one of the beds out the front, and as you can see from here, it's a kind of wild. I've deliberately let this part grow a bit more wild than the other part. Firstly, it's more easy maintained. Secondly, I kind of just like that wild flowering look, kind of a herbaceous border, perennial style. But there's definitely a few mistakes. We'll get up a little bit closer and I can show you the mistakes easier than I can show you what I've done right. So the windy day is a perfect day to show you this part of the garden. I have lots of Stipa tenuissima, which is pony's tails, growing in here. I like the movement that the wind brings to it, and that's the main reason I have it here. Now, I had more of the plants in, but some of them haven't came back this year, and some of them have actually. You can see there's a little tiny one there. It was maybe over pruned and didn't come back as well as the rest. Maybe you can't see very well from here, but I do have lots of hydrangea in. One big problem is this plant here. This is Ceanothus or California lilac. Much too big for its space. Definitely a mistake planting it there, and I will probably dig it out in the winter when it's a bit more dormant. Also, you can see this monstrosity of Japanese grass. Again, I love the movement that it brings to the garden, but it needs to go probably back in there. Much too tall for the place that it's in, but can easily be moved, and I'll probably wait till early spring when it'll have a good chance to root in then, when it's replanted. You'll probably guess from this garden tour that the hydrangea would be one of my favourite plants. I've plenty of hydrangea in the garden, all at varying stages of development. This here is a limelight hydrangea. This is probably its third year here in this space, and it's really starting to mature and get more towards its eventual size. Lovely big panicle blooms, panicle heads on it, and you can see there's just a tiny hint of pink starting to come in it, and it will age to a pink as it gets older. Verbena bonariensis, I absolutely love this plant. Well, I love purple too in general, so there's plenty of this verbena throughout the garden. And daisies add a nice wild touch as well. More verbena there in the back. I love the height and movement that comes from it as well. And in here under the California lilac, I have another hydrangea. I think this is a Little Lime. Also scattered in among it, I have my bay leaf tree, which I actually use in cooking plenty. Another small hydrangea there. Can't actually remember the name of this. I usually leave the tags in the ground, but I've lost the tags of this one. It's quite small now. It may be a little bit shaded, and so that could be holding it back. It's possibly bobo, but I'm not 100% sure on that. Move on around here. And here I have another hydrangea, very like the Pinky Winky, and again I can't remember the name of this one. Leaves are yellowing a little bit, so they probably do need a good feed. And here I have a maple tree, which is definitely only in its infancy. I think I planted it maybe spring of 21, so just over a year old. But you can see autumn colours starting to come already on it. We're getting close. Also, I have my rosemary planted here as well. And again, I really like to mix edible in with my ornamental, edible plants in with my ornamental plants. And then we move to the other side of the driveway. This part of the bed was the original bed, so this was a smaller bed just on its own, and eventually we just went around the whole garden. So you can see here the black lace elderberry getting quite mature now. Now obviously it will grow much bigger, but I will tend to keep it to that size if I can. I love the accent that it gives off, and all the pink and yellow just really pops against it. We also have a small spirea in there. Again, another hydrangea. Pinky Winky, this one. Probably this is the first hydrangea that went into my garden. And I love it. And I love the way it starts to turn pink. It starts to blush down at the bottom of the panicle. And eventually it moves the whole way up. Japanese maple there in at the back. It was chewed back by the dog, but it actually made a really good comeback. It was down to the stump. I really didn't expect it to come back at all, but it's getting there, and hopefully the dog will leave it alone and it'll be better than ever next year. This monstrosity is a flowering cherry, Prunus triloba. Move on around, a nice geranium there. Another small hydrangea just in there. It's kind of getting choked in there too. Again, not sure what that variety is. It's another contender for maybe being a bobo. I'm not 100% sure. Down here I had daisies. They've been cut back, and I'm hoping they'll bloom back again now before the winter. Euphorbia there at the front. Should have probably cut the blooms off it, but it gives a nice colour, nice blue-green colour to the garden. And again, another Japanese maple at the back, chewed by the dog down to the stump, but making a good recovery. Now this is another plant that's a real favourite of mine, Gara. I think this one's called whirling butterflies, and I don't think I need to explain why, because really when the wind is moving those blooms, they do look every bit like whirling butterflies. I've added this salvia in just this summer, early summer. I think I had another one here last year, it didn't survive, so I have put another one in to give it another chance. Quite a few plants didn't come back after the winter, echinacea and salvia being the two that didn't come back the most. I would have had lots of them planted last year, and I may have just picked up the wrong varieties. They may have been annual varieties. Catmint here, I actually have lots of catmint as well throughout the garden. Great plant for pollinators, and again it's purple, so I mean you can't go wrong. Over here I have a nice rose, a David Austin rose called the Poet's Wife. Tag's still on it there. Could look a bit healthier, Again, it's only its second season in the ground, so it will mature more and hopefully look better through time. And a phlox here that I picked up. Absolutely loving the colour of this. And again, this is only planted a few weeks really. Looking forward to see how it matures over the years. And we can't do this tour without showing the bad with the good. So this is what I'm going to call the path of weeds. So it runs down. I have a wee pedestrian gate there at the bottom of the garden, and it runs up here. Obviously it's not supposed to be a path of weeds. If you see, this brick runs around the whole centre of the garden. That's just been done last Sunday, and it's the start of the project really. So this path here will be a gravel pathway edged with brick as well, just waiting to be completed. Oh, I forgot to mention the trees over here. This tree here is a pear tree. Apart from the flowering cherry and the maple tree, all the rest of the trees I've planted here are edible trees, well, fruit trees. That's a pear tree, and on around here I have a plum tree. Not very productive yet. They're only in their infancy. I think this is their second summer here as well. So that's my plum tree. Globe artichoke. This is its second year as well. And again, a lovely ornamental plant with edible artichokes that grow on top of it as well. So it's only in its second year, not growing as vigorously out here as I probably would have liked, and I have more examples around the back in the really wild area that I can show you of how they're supposed to be. More catmint. A couple of heuchera here. Nice bright yellow pop as well. Again, not growing terribly well, but I'm sure they'll take off through time. Another rose in the back, not doing terribly well, but nothing a good feed can't sort out. This plant I think is a pittosporum. I do have the tag down there if I can read it. Yeah, pittosporum, and that will grow quite big shrub. Now here we go down to yet another hydrangea. Another limelight hydrangea. I have two of them, one here and another on this side, so they're both sides of the, well, what's currently the weedy path. And again, this is only their second year, so you can see the difference from the first one I showed you, first limelight, that was in its third year, and this is in its second year, so they do change quite dramatically as the years pass, and I suppose it takes 4 or 5 years to reach full maturity. I had lots of foxgloves planted in here too, so I have them cut back at the minute, and here's the ones that will be flowering next year, all in among the weeds here too. Lots of bits of grass in there as well, and I think a hebe in there too. Again, maybe not as much maintenance around this area just because I'm waiting on the path to be done, and the whole lot could do with being re-mulched again with bark mulch. Because my soil is so poor, I mulched heavily with bark mulch last year. I didn't do it yet this year because I was waiting on the work to be done, so hopefully I'll still get that mulched probably in the middle of mid-autumn, maybe the end of September, and that'll set it up well, and it helps to feed the soil as well, and hopefully break down the heavy clay soil that it is underneath through time. Some small flowers here, lilies, grown from bulbs. This here is columbines, nice purple coloured columbine, again only planted really in a few weeks ago. Probably could do with deadheading as well. but that will grow into quite a big clump of flowers. Dianthus here, lovely for putting a good pop of colour in the garden. That's the other hydrangea. Lovely purple flowering iris here. And a type of salvia. Looks nothing like any other salvia I've ever seen, but I had to buy this plant just for the texture and colour of the foliage, and it is just a foliage only plant. It may send up flower spikes. It didn't this year, but I would think they'll be insignificant. It's mostly grown for its foliage. Now I had 3 plants of catmint planted here. One is starting to come back. It died off actually after I planted it, but it is starting to come back. That one there is doing really well. It just took off from it was planted, and again only a few weeks planted as well. Another one over here, not looking in the best of shape, but I'm hoping, like the first one over here, it will start to come back a bit healthier, and of course they'll all come back next year, so they'll be even better next year. This is Alchemilla mollis. I absolutely love this plant. Haven't grown it yet, but I've seen it in lots of other people's gardens. I love the colour of it. What I really like is the way the water lies on it. I'm hoping I can get it on the camera here. The water tends to bead on it, and again this is only about 4 to 6 weeks in the ground. It grows to be a much bigger plant and spreads voraciously, and you need really some plants like that in the garden, and I really hope this one does spread well. I have a few of them dotted around the garden, and they send up lovely lime green to yellow bloom stalks. They really just add a nice bright colour to the garden. Planted these from bulbs. They are Liatris. This tree here is another pear tree. Oh, I forgot to show you the cherry tree behind. So that's the cherry tree. Did produce cherries this year, very small cherries, but again only its second year to bloom and produce. And I'm trying to find the variety there. It's a Morello cherry. So I have 2 Morello cherries. You'll see one over on the other side now as well. Pear tree, no pears on it this year. I think there was a pear on the other one up at the top. Now this agapanthus is really in its full glory at the minute. Just 2 plants taking up loads of space, and a beautiful colour. I actually held these in pots for about 3 years. Planted them out last spring 21. They didn't really do much last year. I think they may have sent up 1 or 2 bloom stalks last year, but you can just see what a difference the extra year makes to them. Really filling out. And another geranium here with one of those small little buddleias behind it, and it's one that stays nice and small. It's gone past its bloom stage now. Beautiful bright pink, cerise pink blooms on it, but again it's gone out of flower now, but it was lovely. And another phlox. Nice light pink one this time, more pastely coloured. Love the size of the bloom heads on it. And again, only 4 to 6 weeks planted in the ground here, so I'm hoping for good things next year with it. And more verbena trying to attack me here in the garden. Again, brings lots of movement to the garden. Absolutely loved by all the pollinators, the butterflies. usually all over it. A windy day maybe has them put off today. Another heuchera there in the back. Lovely spring blooms. A nice coral salmony pink bloom comes on that in late spring, early summer. You can still see one or two just hanging on there, but again, a plant that's grown for its foliage. And Senecio, planted last summer, and I really love how it stands out in the garden. It's pretty much white. It's the closest to white foliage that I find in the garden. Senecio Angel's Wing, I think is the name of it. And oh, these look pink. I've 3 of these planted throughout the garden. This is probably the only one with blooms left on it. And it's a dwarf ragged robin. Lovely colour. Lovely sprays of blooms on it as well. And a nice bright pink. And this is the real autumn pleaser of a plant here, Rebecca, in its full glory. I think it's Rebecca Goldstrom. Absolutely love that plant, and I did have another one. Didn't make it through the winter, but this one's looking fabulous. Definitely have to plant more of those, especially having so much pink and purple. Yellow really sets off against it, against the purple. I bring you around this side. I just want to show my lovely blue spruce. And I think this is hoop's eye blue spruce. I'm hoping it won't grow too big. I think it was maybe 1 or 1.5 meters spread by 3 meters height that was on the label. Let's hope it was right. And I keep calling this my future Christmas tree. Obviously I hope to, when it gets big enough, decorate it with lights at Christmas. But it really has bounced back this year. It's looking super healthy, growing lots of leaves on the inside, which really was all dead inside last summer, but it's come on so well, bounced back brilliantly. Oh, one last thing to show, my lavender hedge, and you may actually see some pollinator action on it. So this goes down along the outside of the fence, and it really is looking fabulous, and the smell is just gorgeous. And you may not be able to see it on the camera, but it is absolutely alive with bees. Just give you an overview of the front garden here. And again, that brick now around my oval centered garden, really setting it off and making it really stand out. And you can see more bricks there in the background, hopefully to get this path completed. So thanks for coming along on the garden tour. As you can see, it's quite in its infancy yet, but hopefully you'll all be along for the journey to see it grow and mature and fill in. And I'm sure there'll be many changes to be made along the way as well. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already, to support the channel and to keep coming along on the journey with me.